Welcome to Plate Stat Chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your host, Jason, CF Media. And before I bring out my fantastic guests this week, just a quick shout out to Wadaptive that sent some beautiful patches, this lovely shirt, just to promote the adaptive community here in the UK. Most importantly, they will be hosting a mixed team adaptive competition on the 8th of September at CrossFit Solent down in Southampton. It's a pairs competition, one adaptive and one able-bodied athlete. So head to Wadaptive on Instagram if you want to get involved with that. Now, speaking of CrossFit competitions, we have two wonderful guests today that are both very involved in the competition scene, but in quite different ways. So first up, we have a man who might just have the most comprehensive database of CrossFit competitions, events, and elite individual athletes in existence. So yes, he's a numbers and stats guy who has produced content for the likes of Barbell Spin and Be Friendly Fitnessing. But if you think stats are boring, well, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but he has also found some fun ways to use them, like working with Wad Zombie on the athlete cards or Chase Ingram and Get With The Programming on CrossFit Jeopardy. So please welcome the database king, Mr. Barclay Dale.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah. And that was partly true what I said, right?
Partly true, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Close enough. We'll come back to that. And joining Barclay and myself is a wonderful athlete from the UK. She was part of Team JST Compete that won the invitational division at Strength in Depth Origins, despite the fact that after the track event, she did say to me that her glutes hurt so much she was going to make Jennifer Muir do all the heavy squats in the final event. And she did, but she also did her fair share of box jumps and muscle ups. She also finished quarterfinals with a great unofficial position in Europe. And after CrossFit started giving out penalties like Oprah giving away cars, she still managed to hang in there and grab the final spot for the European semifinals. So before you see her on the competition floor in Lyon, you can see her here. Please welcome the lovely Ella Wilkinson.
Thank you for having me.
Ella, welcome. Good week?
Yeah, it's been very, very stressful and emotional and probably one of the hardest weeks of my life. But I'm really glad now to obviously be out of the other end of it. And now I can kind of crack on with what my original plan's always been for the season. So yeah, feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. And you're losing your voice because you said you've also not been feeling well this week on top of that as well.
A couple of sleepless nights, but I feel like that was expected.
Whereas Barclay, you're on holiday.
I am on holiday. I am here in London. I wanted to respect Jason and Ella and join them in their time zone. I was thinking that this might be the only podcast that both of your guests are in the same time zone as yourself. So hope that this is good for everyone in their afternoon time zone in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I think it's setting a dangerous precedent for guests. It's hard enough to get guests, and then when I have to insist that they also travel to the UK so we can be on the same time zone. Well, they could go to Ireland as well. That would be acceptable.
They could,
yeah. But hey, here we are. So, have you been? I'm just curious how involved you've been in sort of following all of the. Can we say drama around quarterfinals, considering you're kind of a database king and yet you are, traveling around?
Last 5 days, I have been out of the loop. I don't know anything that's really going on. Actually, for Ella specifically, I wanted to make sure that she was still in semifinals before I got on the show, that I don't say anything that it would end up being that would hurt her feelings just in case she got dropped out. So at the moment she's in, and we're going to move forward as if she is in, because she is in. As far as we know, the leaderboard's finalized. As far as the drama goes beyond that, I have no idea what's going on.
Not going to lie, Barclay, I too have been constantly refreshing the European women's leaderboard just to make sure, because Ella, you were in a dangerous position.
Yeah, you and me both.
She was not in a dangerous position.
Well, not initially.
Exactly. And that was the scary part.
Yeah. But
I did myself a favor with where I finished. I feel like that's why I'm in a lucky position now. Because if I hadn't hit what I hit for the other workouts, like I would have been hopeless and a fair bit out. So yeah, just staying positive.
And it's so funny, isn't it? Because it's not funny. Sorry, Barclay doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Apparently, I've got no problem doing that. What I mean is, like, usually, so I remember seeing the first post, like with the kind of the unofficial leaderboard, and usually it's sort of like, okay, it's unofficial. We're very quick always to say it's unofficial.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we'll see. It's kind of a lock. This is the first time that I've ever been like, oh, I need to really keep checking, because I'm going to start hurting people's feelings, as Spike said, by just saying the wrong thing when I walk up to them and go, oh, that was I see you'll be off to France soon, right? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
And I've seen others that I knew that were going to. I've actually gone through kind of checking all the, dare I call them, friends of the show that have either been on the show already or maybe coming on in the future. I'm like, just checking that, okay, they're still in there. So, unfortunately, like Mads, who was had a pretty devastating drop, and so she won't be going. But yeah, fun.
I think like the reason why I originally obviously posted that I'd unofficially made it and showed the placing was because we were one of the sort of programs that had got ourselves an AFJ judge. And honestly, the judge that we had, he was amazing. He was so lovely, but he also really did hold us to a standard, not only for obviously workout 1, which ended up me getting a major penalty, but for the other 3 workouts, like me and Jen were held to the highest of standards. So I almost, after finishing that weekend, already had the confidence of like, well, like we've been judged by the best of the best, like we'll be fine. And then I've obviously jinxed myself or something, but yeah, very grateful still, obviously looking at it in a positive way. Like before, after the first 2 workouts were submitted, I remember seeing some stats on the most competitive regions and like where you had to be placed, like where 40th place was placed worldwide. And obviously Europe was had a fair bit of a better place in for say 40th. So to still be in 40th now in arguably one of the most competitive regions, or the most competitive region, like I feel like I'm pretty proud of that. But yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that's so I'd seen that stats. I'd like Barclay to weigh in on this, because I saw that. So I saw those. I reshared it as well. Somebody said to me, I don't like that people keep resharing this after just 2 workouts, because we need all 4. And I was like, yeah, okay, I know, but what I think is kind of like tricky about that stat when you look at it like globally, is that you could, and it will never happen, but you could have a region finish 1 through 39th, literally 1 through 39th worldwide, and then their 40th athlete take 1000th place. And looking at that stats, you'd be like, oh, so that region isn't as good as whereas another one that their lowest athlete took 80th because they took the next sort of 40 spots. But that being said, I hadn't looked at it from the point of view of the person sitting in 40th going, wow, look how good our region is. Because even though I'm 40th here, that would mean I'm way higher in a less competitive region. So,
yeah, I think like as well, for me, I took last year out to graduate from uni, get all my studies out the way, and the barbell's always been my problem. So just been strength cycle for the past year. But even so, with the major penalty and sort of the outcome of this quarterfinals, I've actually done better than I did 2 years ago. So the progress is still there. So yeah, I really can't complain.
Yeah, I want to say you were like 55th or something like that. Is it 55th? Yeah.
Bang on.
So you managed to go to semi-finals, because back then we had 2 European semi-finals.
No, it was the top 60.
Oh, it's top 60.
Yeah, so before they cut it to 40, it was 60.
Before they cut it to
40.
No,
it was. Sorry, they split the 60 into 2.
Yeah,
but for
because you went
quarterfinals.
to strength and depth, didn't you? Yeah. Which
about
means that's all right. That's why we're here. That does mean that somewhere your name must be on a spreadsheet in Barclay's house, because
Maybe.
if she went to a semi-final, you don't reckon you've got that?
Oh, I've got her. I've got her sanctionals. I've got French Throwdown from 2019. I've got semifinals, open, all the way back in 2018. She's all over the spreadsheet.
There you go. Which feels strange, but anyway. How do you feel about that, Ella? That that people that are there, like tracking your you're obviously tracking your progress, and it's nice to be like, oh, even though I took a year off, and this year's better than 2 years ago. But the fact that other people are tracking that data as well, is that like encouraging for you, make you feel more professional, or is it just sort of a surreal kind of, that's weird?
Yeah, I just think it's cool. It's nice to like other people are kind of obviously like, looking into that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Okay, that's the call apparently, Barclay. There you go.
Yeah, that's all I just need
The only reason you came, just to validate yourself. Afternoon to Jeffrey. Let's just perhaps a few comments. And the question was she a victim of the step-up penalties?
Yes. I sure was. Yeah, it was a very vague email, like every other athlete received, saying like it kind of listed everything. It was like your hips, your knees, this, that, and the other. Obviously sent off an appeal. I was very emotional the morning of. So I kind of was just like in my appeal form, I was like, my hips are extended, my knees are extended. Like we had an AFJ judge, please reconsider. And then Steve, my coach, we went for lunch because I think he thought probably not best me just being by myself crying all day. And then we kind of just had a little think, and I was like, right, I'm not happy with that appeal form. So I sent off another one. Obviously, I don't know whether it got read or whatnot, but just with a little bit more detail, which I thought would kind of help my case a little bit more. But then I woke up, I think it was 2 days after the appeal results came through, and yeah, it was denied. But to be honest, I didn't really expect anything different. I think at that point I was going to be relying on a backfill spot, but then obviously more penalties kind of came out, and then I dropped into 40th. So yeah, I've just been very lucky, and I really do feel for the other athletes that have also had to go through the same situation, but obviously their seasons had to end because of it.
Yeah. So did you, because I'm trying to think how they were updating the leaderboard. Like, did you see yourself drop out then and then come back in, or you just assumed you were dropping lower and then?
So the night before was the Tuesday, and I'd actually gone into 10th, and I was like, oh my gosh, like if this stays like this, I'm going to be in like the last heat. I was almost panicking. I know it's like 3 weeks out, but for me, like I've made a lot of progress, but I didn't expect to be where I was. It was like a pleasant surprise that the hard work's paid off. And then the next morning, I missed 2 calls at like 6 a.m. from my mum, and I was like, I'm sleeping, like don't disturb me at this time in the morning. And then an hour later, got another call, answered it. She was like, you've dropped into 43rd, you've had a major penalty. Like, no. Like, it was just full panic mode. So from there, I just basically had a breakdown. So I looked on the leaderboard, and yeah, I was in 43rd. And then from that, I've kind of just been refreshing it. And I think a few other girls must have received major penalties, because then for me to go into it, I feel like a lot of people there would have had to have been dropped a fair bit, because it was my best finish. Right. Well, one of my best finishes, I think I was 7th on 1 and 2. So I would have needed like major penalties instead of like people getting better scores, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's more fascinating. What time is your mum up? That she's.
I know. I feel like she must have been up all night just like refreshing it. She was just going to do that all last week. I think she had work, so yeah.
And that she, that she follows CrossFit close enough to be checking the leaderboard. That's the other thing that surprises me.
Yeah, I think she just wanted to make sure that I was where I was, because we had, obviously, because the European semi-final is only like 2.5 weeks away now, everyone's had to sort of pre-book accommodation and book flights. And on the Tuesday, my mum and dad had booked 2 tickets to go and watch. And the transaction went through, but they never got the tickets. So they've had to do it twice. So that's like £400. And then obviously that happened, and my mum was thinking, I'm already £400 down. I was just like, oh.
Does she do CrossFit herself?
So back in like 2017, when they got me into it, like my mum, my dad, my sister, they all started before me, and then it was my mum that got me into it. So around then they were a lot more, like they were there a lot more often. And then I think lockdown obviously hit, and then since then they've not really done much of it since. They just kind of keep active in different ways.
I see. I would follow up with a question of, do you reckon they're on any of Barclay's spreadsheets? But I
don't think they've entered the.
I don't think so either.
Personally.
But
Ella, there's been a lot of suggestions that have gone around to ideas and recommendations to change the entire validation process. If you had just one thing that you would change, obviously there's a bunch out there. If you had one, what would it be that you would change?
With regards to like how this season's kind of flown, as in
all the drama that's happened in the last week.
I think the thing that you can't go wrong with, unless it's like a blatant no rep. I know everyone's obviously already said box step overs would have been better, but couldn't agree more. Like it still would have been really grippy, still would have been leggy. I can imagine you would have felt just as bad doing box step overs as you would a box step up. And not only for the validation process, obviously athletes have to hold themselves to a high standard, but it's just easier to pick up on those kind of problems. And then obviously X number of people haven't even had videos reviewed. If it was something like a box step over, there probably wouldn't be as much wrong with other people's reps, if that makes sense. Like you're less likely for others to also kind of maybe produce the same error unintentionally, but then they're not going to get caught up, like sort of picked up on that. So I think just movements that are easier for the online process. And then if you want to bring a box step up in, bring them in the live competition. I just think it's easier for the
I agree.
judges. Like you go from point A to point B over the box. If the dumbbells touch the box, obviously it's a no rep. But apart from that, you can't really go wrong.
Do you think though, if they this is the funny thing, because if they brought them in live competition, wouldn't we have basically the same thing happen, but just kind of after the fact? Because as we've seen, you had you had a judge there. Others had judges come in. Judges felt it was fine.
Yeah.
And then on video, people have been saying, well, no, for these reasons, all these penalties. And so you would have kind of, as usual, sort of events would finish, and then people would go back and rewatch them and be like, well, actually, look, this judge isn't calling a no rep on that, and this judge isn't, but that one had a really strict judge, and this one, their judge wasn't as strict. And it's kind of like, oh, I mean, so that's always the nature, isn't it? There are movements that are just, movement standards, I suppose, that are quite tricky to say, well, that's clear, because I mean, the fact that you got a judge down. In fact, Jeffrey Birchwood has asked this question, which is quite interesting. So, would you have an impartial judge come in again next year, whether it be from AFJ or someone else that is a certified judge?
110% yes. Honestly, my judge was called Stefan. He was amazing. Like, made sure that the videos, obviously we didn't have floor plans this year, so we made sure that regardless of that, the cameras were placed so that you could literally see everything. I know, like, obviously, for example, the wall ball burpee one, if you had the camera facing, say, where I am, and your box was facing, like, where my laptop is, then you couldn't see half of the burpees. Obviously, that's, if someone's been caught up on that or brought up on that, it's like, well, CrossFit didn't bring out floor plans, and that's the whole point of a floor plan. So I think 110% I would, because it does take the pressure off. You don't have as many like what ifs. Like, I didn't think for a second that I would have been receiving a penalty this week. Like, I know for workout 3, my handstand push-up reps were great. Like, all the gymnastics movements, everything was held to a high standard. So yeah, I would massively recommend it. Obviously, my situation is a bit different to Jen's. We both had the same judge. And I know for a fact that Jen felt a lot felt very confident after that weekend. Obviously, unfortunately for me, I just got caught up in this kind of unusual situation. But yeah, so I had no angry feelings or anything towards the AFJ judge that I had, because he was genuinely great. Like, honestly, he made the weekend so much breezier than it felt 2 years ago. And he, like, any issues that we had or any questions, for example, like my collarbone is very, very big from like the bar constantly crashing. We wanted to know if you could kind of have any sort of anything there to kind of reduce the impact. And obviously you checked that out with CrossFit. They came back and said that we couldn't. We were like, right, at least we've got that answer, because we've not then made the mistake of doing that and then having to pay for it kind of later on. So yeah, he was great. Could not recommend it more, to be honest.
Yeah, and then I suppose, like, obviously with the step ups, that was happening kind of across the board, even with people that had judges there. But
Yeah,
at least you're not worried, you know, the fact that you're sitting in that position and you're thinking, oh man, if I get a penalty on something else, like, then that's really game over. But you've kind of
yeah,
got that confidence of, well, you know, this is a bit weird, but at least I know everything else I did. If they happen to look at anything else, if anything else gets checked, I should be good because I had that judge there.
yeah.
There's a follow-up question I'm going to ask it in a second, but Barclay, I want to throw back your question that you were saying about one thing to change. Would it be the same, or do you have another answer of how you would have adjusted the system?
I mean, I think it's the easy answer. I haven't even thought too much about it. I was just curious because, again, I've been out of the drama for 5 days now. So I that's one thing that I've seen when I pop on Instagram is people saying, why didn't they just do this? And it's easy to say that, you know, armchair everything and say, why don't they just do this? So for now, until I actually digest everything, because I take a long time to process all information and then say what I want to say and mean to say. For now, I will follow Ella's lead and say, I think that changing the movements is definitely an easy one to do.
Yeah. Coffee pots and what's ways in that you just want more maths.
Sure, why
You don't
not?
care how you get it, just more. Some strange noises coming through now. Oh,
It's me.
I like more maths too. Well, see, this is what happens when you travel. So the only thing I think about all of that is I shared a comment today, and maybe that's not even what I exactly meant when I shared it. I was like, oh, that's quite interesting, because somebody posted it saying about like that you shouldn't be able to have an athlete above you that didn't have their video review, that didn't post a video. And I would say it's actually you shouldn't be able to drop them lower than someone whose video hasn't been reviewed. So they might have shared a video, but if that video hasn't been reviewed, it feels, you know, disingenuous to say, well, we're going to dock, especially when you're looking so many people, because at this point, statistically, they've got, you know, a pretty good chance that they've also made mistakes. So if you're dropping someone lower than them because they've had a penalty, you've got to be sure that that person you're dropping them below also hasn't, you know, got a penalty, because it's kind of that, you know, with these big leaderboards, all these positions matter so much more so than on a, you know, a leaderboard of 20, 30 people. So I do think that's, you know, it's one thing to say, hey, you did the wrong thing and you're being, you know, and you get a penalty for that. That is what people have wanted from CrossFit. You know, there's been a lot of criticism on not giving penalties. So yeah, fine, give people penalties. Sorry, Ella, give people penalties, but then you've got to make sure you're giving everyone that deserves a penalty, not just the top people, and then going, but, you know, we don't really have time to look at anybody else's video, so I guess you're all okay. Because that just feels, you know, a little bit cheap. Oh, what was it? Why don't you have any trading cards on your shelves? I only have one trading card. I have Ariel Lowen's card, signed as well, so I guess that adds some value to it. And next week it will be sitting up on that shelf. So
I think Jason's waiting for some European athlete cards to come out.
Rising Tide is saying we can't get them here. What's on it? There you go. That's well, if only there was a distribution base we knew in the UK that was sort of working with companies that were helping to distribute products from the US in the UK. Rising Tide, that would be really good. No Pat Vellner card. What happened? Why am I getting? He's waiting for Yonakoski. Yeah, why not? There's all right. I'm not pulling up any more comments. There's a whole now. They're looking for distributors in Europe. So, I'll leave them to sort all that out in the comments. I'm waiting for the Ella Wilkinson card. She just needs to kind of channel all that frustration and apprehension and anger of this week into her performance at semifinals. I mean, some people are saying that Europe's quite a competitive region, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to do, but go for it, make it to the games, and then
it's not hard to expect Ella to be the greatest climber in semifinals, across all semifinals, because she's going in 40th. You can't go any lower, but you can only go up, and we expect her to be a lot higher than she is at the moment.
Yeah,
I really hope so.
Because also you had a really good open finish as well, didn't you?
Yeah, honestly, everything's been great. Like, I think because I know the Open's quite fitness based, we didn't really see heavy barbell, but because my strength is it still obviously needs a lot of work. It's just one of them, strength takes years, but gradually each year it is getting better and better. But I've never really been able to tap into my fitness or kind of build up my fitness to what I think like I could have it as, because I've spent so much time doing a strength cycle. Like even 2 years ago, wasn't really doing too much fitness. I feel like my engine's always naturally kind of been there, but this year, like this time round, I've been able to build a little bit more. And yeah, it gets me excited because I feel like that could be a big strength of mine. I just obviously need to get the strength up, but it definitely did pay off in the Open, especially 24.2. I surprised myself with that one. I just kind of went into like a flow state for the full 20 minutes. And yeah, just found, I was like, oh, okay, my fitness is getting there. Like, this is cool.
Yeah, I think I've been on record saying that was also my favorite of the three. Was definitely that one. Oh, hold on. So I'm being trolled in here because I did say I think Laura might actually be the greatest climber because
it's a pun.
She's a climber. Yeah. There was a question earlier that was asking. Here we are. What would you have used to cushion the barbell? Have you got something you use usually when you're?
So I sometimes just whack a knee sleeve in my sports bra and it just stays. But it honestly, there's like a few videos on my Instagram actually where I've been clean and jerking with it, and people have been like, "Oh, I've never thought of doing this before." I was like, I should bring out a product that does that, like cushions it. But yeah, just normally a knee sleeve. I think Jen put some tape, like no cushioning, just because she'd tried that workout twice and she had a pretty nasty scab on her, so almost like a big plaster just to cover the scab, because obviously that, I mean, it still ended up bleeding, but just to kind of, how
hard she wants it, isn't it? She's willing to bleed for these
these
points. Was that the more devastating thing then? Not that you dropped to 40th, but that you were ahead of Jen and then you dropped below her.
I mean, we don't really see it like that. Like, we just both obviously want the best for each other, and like that was what was so great about that weekend. I think I was happy with where I finished because I was like, right, I've proven to myself that I can be just as good, because I think sometimes I do have a little bit of self-doubt. I think because I've not really been on the live competition scene as much over the past few years, as obviously I was pre-COVID and pre my Achilles injury. I just think it's like, I feel like now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, right, I feel like I've proven to myself that I can be out there and I can compete against that level. But Jen, she's just amazing. Like, we're like best friends, but we both kind of look up to each other a little bit in different ways. Like, I wanted to just one and done the workouts all weekend, because I was like, especially after workout one, it's the irony, because I literally said to Jack and Jamie, I was like, you could not pay me to do that workout again, because I was in that much pain. Whereas like Jen, she repeated maybe 2 of them, but like her ability to recover is just amazing. So for me, like, I really look up to her for that, because I'm like, well, in a live competition, you're going to need to recover for the next event, and I would love to be able to do that. So I feel like we both kind of like, we push each other in the best possible way. So when I did finish, well, obviously I finished 40th, so officially. When I was initially in 11th, I didn't kind of look at it like that and think, oh my God, it just felt good that I was sort of with that roster of athletes.
Yeah. Which you still are, which is like the nice thing, right? I mean, making it to a semi-final in general is like an incredibly impressive feat. Making it in the European one at the moment is, a really impressive feat. But then people say, well, is it because you've taken away some of the best athletes? But no, it's fine. We'll
The
never win.
field is the field.
Yeah.
You can't change that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw. It's funny because there's a post I think Mike Halpin put up, known and knowable on that Instagram page, where it's sort of the female games athletes from last year and like how many are out this year.
I saw that 1 hour ago.
Which it's true. It's a factual image, but it is interesting because obviously when you hear that like people that should be going to the games haven't made it because of quarterfinals, and then you see this, your head automatically is like, oh, look how the field's been devastated because of this. But then when you start actually going through and looking at each athlete individually, you're like, oh well, hold on, she's pregnant, or this one's con team, or oh, this one's doing that, and you sort of start to actually remove them for quite a huge variety of reasons, and then you're like, okay, it's not good, but it's not necessarily as bad as as it could be, if that makes sense. But yeah, okay. How was your quarterfinal performance, Barclay? Are you heading off to any semifinals?
Absolutely not. I didn't even perform them. I've same as Ella. Strength is my weakness, so I've only been doing lifting cycles since September, and I do not have semifinals aspirations, so we are in a different league, but I've still only been doing strength cycles since September. I decided to sign up for the Open to support the sport. Hadn't done a Metcon since September. Made it to quarterfinals, actually earned my spot. I was 89.5 percentile last year. So like right outside of quarterfinals when they did 10%, 2023. And then I was, I don't know, 80th percentile this year. So I was well in by 5%. And I said that was pretty dangerous that I did 3 Metcons. I just went on the starting line and raced to the end for 3 open workouts. It's probably not smart for me to I'll probably end up in the hospital or with some sort of injury if I did the quarterfinals. So I opted not to do them, and I'm probably better for it at the moment. I'd like to do them at some point, but when I'm actually in a state where I could not get rhabdo.
Yeah. Well, brave, smart. But I mean, well done on your open performance anyway. If you've just been focusing on strength. I mean, I always find every year the open rolls around and it just reminds me, how much I should be doing strength cycles and working on strength, because I'm like, oh, everything feels heavy. But this time it was also, I just recovered from 2 chest infections, so it was like, oh, not only am I weak now, I'm also don't have an engine. So it was sort of the worst of both worlds, which is not fun. But anyway, I like you do not have semi-final goals. People have asked me if I'm going this year just to watch, and I can't even, like, that's my goal, is maybe next year I might make it to watch the semi-final. So that's I think that's a realistic goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody put Lisa put a good comment up here that just surviving the video reviews is a very impressive feat. So that's you can get like a I'm a survivor t-shirt or something. Something will come out. Like, I survived quarterfinal workout 1 video review. Yeah. It'll be like a nice little club. You're like a Pat Vellner that you got knocked down but not out. So
I just wish that they did review more of 3 and 4, because if you showed me all 4 workouts and you were like, which one do you think people will get most of the legitimate penalties, I would have said workout 3, just because you get those handstand, you're trying to go fast and sometimes like your head's not quite through and your like feet come away from the wall before you've locked out on the last rep, just little things like that. I think are kind of, when you get caught up racing, I think a lot of people, well, not a lot, but some people can do, maybe unintentionally. Obviously you're trying to go quick, but I do think that there should have been a little bit more of an overall review as opposed to just absolutely hammering one workout. And I'm not just saying that because I obviously received a penalty, because that for me is just like slap on the wrist, we move on. But yeah, I do think that they should have been a bit more or well-rounded with the video review. That would be my second tip to them for next time.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, because obviously, there's a multiverse out there where they reviewed a different workout and we didn't have all these box step up penalties, and it was different athletes getting dinged for different things. But it is interesting. Like, you would like to know why that worked. Like, what was the decision? Because you're not the first person I've heard say this would be the workout. This is the one we're expecting them to review because this is the one that's most likely going to have, mistakes. Weird that they chose that one with a movement that's particularly hard to, and it's almost like, well, did they expect something like this? And maybe they expected to get quite a few. Maybe they didn't expect to get as many as they did, because the problem is, like, going back to saying, well, you need to review, if you drop people below people, you need to review all of their workouts. They just don't have time.
Yeah.
There's just not enough, there's just not enough time. So even if we're saying, well, they should do this, well, how will they do it? There's just not enough man hours. And yes, like, it's there, they've put deadlines in place, so theoretically they could push those back. But as you were saying already, your family's already booking tickets because there's not a lot of time. You've got to start making plans. You're booking stuff now. So if that gets pushed back any further, when are people then making their arrangements and their plans to travel? So,
yeah, I think this is the first time when semis has been so close to the quarterfinals. Obviously, quarterfinals is normally is it April? No,
still April. It was earlier.
April. Sorry, I'm so lost. March. That's when it used to be, around the start of March. And I think, like, you've almost got a little bit more leeway there. But obviously, like, 3 weeks, even when they first announced the season, I thought, Jesus, I've literally got like hardly any time if I qualify. So it's almost like you just got to keep that train going. And I mean, I obviously got ill last week. So today and yesterday, the DOMs I feel like I've not trained in 6 weeks. So it's great. But yeah, I think they would just need that bigger window if they want to do more reviews of more workouts, not just obviously 1 and 2.
Yeah, and agrees with you that also the ring muscle ups, no reps, were going to be there, and saying that it's actually locking out a ring muscle up is a lot harder than standing up a step up.
Yeah.
I think we use our legs every day. We step upstairs and stuff, so it's probably true. It's not every day that I'm
questioning how I walk upstairs now. I'm like, every step I take, I'm thinking.
Yes. Well, you do exactly. If you've got perfect form on every step you take in life, then a box step up is going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Do you think? So I know that Dave Casper has mentioned that things will change next year, and the one thing we know about the CrossFit season and the way the structure of the games and everything is, things always change. Like, do you think there's going to be a big change? Like, can it go on like this with kind of these mass video participation workouts to cut such a big field to such a small field? Like, is this just going to repeat itself again in the future if kind of things don't change, or are we sort of forced to kind of have video review and there's kind of no other option? I don't know. Or what would you like?
A lot of people have said live competitions again, but I think with CrossFit there's such a big participation scale, especially now with it being the top 25%. I think, like, obviously how long would it take to review that many people's videos to make it as fair as possible? I think, like, I came from a gymnastics background, and sort of the qualification processes to world championships and British championships are obviously very different. You have nowhere near as many athletes or gymnasts. You don't have like 3,000 women in the like that category kind of thing. So I think obviously with it being online, there's more people that can do it, and that's great. But then it does obviously add complications to, right, who are we legitimately reviewing now to allow to kind of continue with the season? It's kind of like combined it, which is cool. But then obviously there's problems that can arise from it at the same time.
Yeah. Thoughts, Barclay? All live competitions. That's all we're going to do from now on. The Open must be a live competition.
Whatever they come up with, they'll come up with. Like it's kind of like it's a waste of energy and breath to speculate, because one, it's not going to be, we're not going to know for months, and two, we can't control it once they put out what the changes are. We can express our disdain for those changes in hopes that they'll change it 1 year later. But until those 12 months have surpassed, there's nothing you can really do. So I'm kind of in the same boat as I receive information, process, and then say what I mean to say intentionally. I have nothing to really say about this because I can't control it. It's out of my hands.
Is there something you would like in your dream scenario? Let's not even say next year. Let's say like you're looking at the season in 5 years' time. What would it be? Kind of, how would you like to have seen CrossFit kind of maneuver things, and to how it would look in 5 years?
I would like the community to be appreciative of the season. Yeah. I think that we like having the Open. I think that we like having quarterfinals. We like the ability to be athletes at any age, to progress, whether we've been an athlete at some point in our lives or not. And, you know, at the end of the day, we have some entity, that entity being CrossFit HQ, that's providing the world with that worldwide competition. Yes, there are a lot of flaws. There will always be a lot of flaws. There will always be a lot of people that are negative towards it. I think that it's really easy to see the negative, and very few people are vocal about the positive that actually exists. That isn't to say that it's great and I don't want anything to change. But I would like to see a lot more positivity around the sport in general.
Yeah. I think I always find it funny because like the Open, you know, the classic kind of the Open doesn't matter anymore is sort of the throwaway line. And I've said it before, like I did this UK tour this year, so I got to experience the Open in 3 different boxes in 3 different parts of the UK. And like you could not convince me that the Open didn't matter, because the people that I met there, it really mattered for them. And a lot of those people would have no idea who, you know, I could show them that picture of all the athletes that kind of dropped out or that aren't doing the games this year. They wouldn't know who any of those people are because it doesn't matter to them. It's just this big community event and they absolutely love it. And for some of them, it was the first time they were doing it. For others, you know, like, oh, I've done it for, 13 years, whatever. They no hope of kind of taking it any further than this. This is just what they're doing to be part of their community, part of the box, what they're doing. So I think the Open has to stay. We got to have the Open. I don't think the Open has to be involved in qualifying people for the games for it to even still exist and be a good thing. Like, and I don't think just because it doesn't qualify you for the games means that games athletes shouldn't also do the Open, even if it was just its own separate kind of fun thing. I'd still love to, then maybe winning the Open is just that. It's just winning the Open and they get some money. So it's a motivation for them to do it. And for the rest of us, we get to kind of see how we stack up to some of these people that are the best people in the world on this online competition.
Do you think that there should be some sort of separation between the Open and the quarterfinals, such that it's like the Open is for affiliates and quarterfinals, let's say in this scenario, we rename it as just CrossFit Games qualifiers, is for athletes, and there should be a distinct separation between the two?
I guess it just depends on how do we define who are the athletes, because I think you've got a lot of people at the affiliate that are also, consider themselves to be the athletes, even though, I mean, that's very much the nature of CrossFit, right? You've got all these competitions every weekend. So if I go down and do a competition at the weekend, does that mean I'm an athlete? For some, they're like, no, it's just fun. I don't expect to do very well, but it's a fun day out. For others, it's practice for bigger competitions. It's just, time on the competition floor. So it's really hard to kind of, unless there's some kind of ranking system that kind of you need to be at a certain level. And I know, Barclay, you've kind of got your ideas on how to rank people.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I think when the Open was 5 weeks, obviously I wasn't near sort of the level that I am now. So it wouldn't have mattered to me as such, like trying to make regionals, because I just wasn't good enough then. But I think, like, obviously, if you had a 5-week Open, this is just a scenario of that contributed to, say, semi-finals and quarterfinals wasn't really a thing. You then have a week after each workout to review a singular workout. And that means that there's more time for, like, more attention to detail for each individual workout. But then obviously that would then, like we were saying then about the Open being for the community and then quarterfinals being separate, that would kind of merge it all into one, as it used to be a couple of years ago. But I think it's, with any system, there's going to be some flaw, just because the participation numbers, like, it's amazing that so many people like love getting involved with it, and it's great. Like I love that you've got people that have got their own goals. It's not all just about trying to be an athlete, and they can still take part in it. It's just, yeah, when you obviously combine the two, it just, there's pros and there's cons to everything. So,
well, Dave Castro likes to tell us that cuts have always been a part of the CrossFit Games season. So you could have a 5-week Open, because I think that's a really good. So I don't like the 5-week Open. I much prefer the 3-week Open, because, again, looking at it from the community and box owners, and just I felt in the 3rd week of the Open there was still a real buzz. And I know some people say, oh, I didn't experience that it dropped off in the 5th. I've seen it drop off in the 5th week. So I really do think that, and I know for myself, like, to be honest, even though I'm not an athlete that's got, some dream of going to any kind of competition, it's, my training is for me. But I did find 5 weeks of the Open just sort of messed up my personal training. And I was like, oh, I'm not training the way I want to train, because I'm doing this workout and I'm going, really hard on a Friday, and then Monday I still don't really feel like doing the workout that I kind of had planned or whatever. But the idea of having that entire week to review video, that's quite clever.
yeah.
So why you could actually do it that it's, there's cuts. It's like the first 3 weeks, and then we cut for week 4 and 5. And so only those that are already at a certain level will then progress to the final two workouts. So that's, another. I mean, personally, I liked the sanctional system, just because I just liked the fact that we could see athletes going to different parts of the world competing. And I think if you want to grow a sport globally, you want to be able to show off your stars and your fan favorites and the people that will, sell tickets and drive people to watch, and they'll tell their friends, or they'll say, you got to come along, because at this one there's going to be this person who's, the best in the world at this, or that's, amazing at doing something. So just having that they could travel around, and people that would never have an opportunity to go to America to go to the games to see them compete could see them, I think is really good. So I'm all for, if that can be reintroduced and there can be more in-person events leading up to the season. But I also know that it's very expensive to put on competitions, and people don't always buy tickets, and it seems that it's the same sponsors sponsoring events. And actually, I think one of the problems with when you have events that are then tied to CrossFit, depending on how tightly they're tied, it even limits maybe who they can bring on as sponsors. So you're saying, all right, you need to put on this competition, you're paying for it. The athletes will go to the games. Oh, because they're going to the games, that means you can't use this sponsor because they're a competitor to our title sponsor, and you can't use this sponsor because we go with someone else. And so you kind of, it's not just, oh, well, how are you going to have all these competitions? There's so many sort of, behind the scenes logistics to work out. But anyway, if they could solve all those problems, I'd really like to see more in-person competitions with the big names. And I think, hey, if you qualify for the games straight away, and then you've got the rest of the season to just train and focus on the games, like, that's a great advantage, but you've earned it by going and winning that competition. And then if you're going to qualify kind of shortly before because you didn't manage to qualify in another one, that's kind of all part of the game at that point. But does that test for the fittest on earth? I don't know.
I think that if we brought back the sanctionals, or whatever they would call sanctionals, of course you get loud right when I talk. I think if they brought back the sanctionals, what I would want to add into that season is mandatory. You would have to compete at 2 competitions. So it'd be points rather than getting first or like the next spot for non-games qualified athletes. Say that the top 5 have already qualified, the 6th place finisher would earn the game spot. I would want it to be some sort of system that combines your finishes across 2 competitions. So at least 2 competitions. So it would require athletes to compete more than just in September of 2023 to qualify for the games 2024. So that we get to see them at least twice, so that you don't have that long break and we just get this radio silence and we have nothing to talk about. Say you have to compete once in the first half of the sanctional season and once in the second half of the sanctional season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I'm happy with that.
You better not complain.
I think the problem with the sanctionals last time was that it wasn't even so. Even like the backfills, like, oh well, this person, it's going to 6th place. It wasn't because they won another sanctional. It was, oh well, this one got it through because they were they won in their country, and this one they got it because they won the Open. This one they got it because, and it was like you're having to track different leaderboards to understand why it's backfilled to the person that came 6th. Even if it was just, well, they won, they don't get the games ticket. Why? Oh, because they won that competition last month. Oh, okay. Like, that's quite easy to follow. But when you're having to explain to someone that, well, actually they're a national champ, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means they're, the best in their country because they did the Open. Yeah, but that person's from their country and they beat them. Yeah, I know, but at this other competition, they were the best in their country. So it just becomes sort of, I don't know, a little bit awkward. But hey, it's what I'd like to see. Oh, here we are. Is it fair though when each sanctional can have its own programming?
No. There has to be a lot of regulation on the sanctional season in this hypothetical. Like golf. I mean, I watched the Masters a few weeks back. It was the first time that I'd actually sat down and watched golf because some people at the office had the Masters on, and I was asking them questions because I didn't know much about it. And there's like a range for what is par for the entire course. So like people throw in the number, like I'm 4 under par, which would be like, if it's 72, that'd be you shot a 68 for the 18 holes. And there's like a range that par can be for the course. It could be like 69 to 73 or something like that. There'd have to be a lot of strict rules for CrossFit programming. You need this number of events. You need this many barbell movements, odd objects. You need to have gymnastics from these different categories, easy, burpee, moderate level, which could be like a box step up, and to something complicated like a ring muscle up, rope climb. You need a lot of stuff, and then you can put it all together, because what CrossFit needs to be able to do is let this go, leave it alone, and have it run without them regulating everything on their own.
I think it's brave for you to say that a box step up is moderate after everything we've seen.
I needed a gymnastic movement.
It's still
Does it still hurt just when you hear that movement, Ella?
I'm over it now. It's fine.
Because you said you have a gymnastics background as well.
Yeah.
So being told that you can't do the moderate movements well, that's got to hurt.
I'm trying to think of what sport background I should have had to aid a box step up, though.
Yeah. I don't know.
Walking.
Yeah.
Speed walking.
Nordic walking, going up the hills and stuff. because then you also kind of got the sticks, which you could just be like, well, they're dumbbells now, and it's sort of all just yeah. Oh, there you go. That would make a lot of sense. So it's tough because it's like, yes, you want to have, like, in the nature of fairness, you want to make sure there's a degree of standardization across all these competitions, and in an interest of growing the sport for spectators and people that just want to watch it, you don't want them turning it on and going, oh, this is a repeat, I saw this the other week. It's like, no,
Yeah.
this is a different competition, different athletes, they're doing the same thing again. It's like, yeah, I know, like, and I think for us, and especially some of us that maybe are on this call that really like stats, it's fun to watch the same people do the same workouts because it gives you a really nice, clear data point where you're like, well, in this workout there. But for like the general, I think you used to find that when we did have, well, even with semifinals and things, people are like really eager the first week, second week, and kind of by the third, I'm like, I want to watch it because I care about the athletes, but I might just look at the leaderboard and see, or just check in on a couple that I really care about because, or if it's like a workout that they consider a boring workout, they're like, oh, I'm not going to watch that again because it's boring. I'll just come in the last 2 minutes and see sort of who's going to win. Even running races have course requirements for any record to count. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, CrossFit's a very new sport, so they've got a lot of time to put these things in place, I think. But it's true. I mean, you want, like, even less so the degree of like, oh, are they really the fittest on earth if they didn't all do the same thing? If it's a test, like the test has to be fair, everyone has to take the same test. But kind of even if you remove all of that and say it's just a sport, when there's money on the line and it's a sport and people are training and competing and people are backing them, whether that's sponsors or even in the case of CrossFit, family and friends that are donating to a GoFundMe, you do want that the person that wins, there isn't kind of some dubious cloud around it of the, yeah, but they only won because they went through that easier semi-final and then that easier this, and it's like, well, but then how would they win the games? That's the question. If they went through the easy route when they get to the game, that's always my thought on like the region lock kind of thing. It's like, let them go wherever they want, because once they get to the games, if you've only managed to get to the games because you've deliberately picked your path of least resistance, you're gonna not have a great games, I think. So that's unless you're like the absolute fittest and you've done that just so you can kind of rein it in a little bit, and then you can go.
Then everyone's just confused.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like Matt Fraser going through, kind of moving to Asia and going through the Asian sort of route, and then, but then he would have gone head to head with Roman too early. So he would have had to go to Africa, qualify through Africa. And everyone will go, oh, he went through an easy route and then just absolutely destroy the games. See? And that's why I love stats, Barclay.
Yeah, that's about the extent of your stat loving, I know.
Yeah. I like... okay, this is like the final thing then, and then we'll wrap this all up because I appreciate that, Barclay's on holiday. But I do... So sometimes I think with regards to like getting more people involved and watching CrossFit and things like that, I do hear a lot of things that are tied back to stats and like information and like giving people more information, and then when they have this information they can really, and obviously you hear that coming from people that love stats and information and things like that, and I still think like, okay, that is good, but that still feels like it's more for people already in, or kind of already in, because I don't think you're dipping your toe in to sort of check out this new sport and you're going there immediately with spreadsheets and books and information on like, oh, I need to know all of this sort of stuff. So I kind of wonder, well, how do we just make CrossFit more fun to watch and to follow for people that don't know anything about it? I was going to say like Ella's mum, but we know that she gets up at 5 a.m. to check the leaderboard to make sure, so it doesn't count. But do you have any other friends, Ella, that don't? Do you have friends that don't do CrossFit? There we go.
I do. I'm not always the best at keeping in touch. Like I don't really catch up with them often. I speak to them a lot online, but I do. It's just kind of sometimes people like different interests kind of like I had friends from gymnastics and I still check in with them every so often, but they're still obviously sporting people. School, not so much. My school years weren't like the best years for me. And then I've had some friends through uni that I do keep in touch with as well, but they are always interested in like how I'm getting on and stuff. But yeah, it's always quite hard to explain to them what it really is. I feel like it's definitely compared to when I was in high school and people were like, what's CrossFit? I feel like people do know more now than they did then. I used to just get the little Fittest on Earth documentary up on my phone. I'd be like, watch the trailer to this. This is CrossFit. But yeah, they do know about it, but not obviously. I'm more in the loop with. I've got a lot more friends in CrossFit now than outside of CrossFit.
Do you think you could convince them to like watch it? Some of their friends.
I
and
think
if so,
like,
do you think they'd enjoy it?
I think if I feel like they'd be more obliged to watch it if they like say I was competing. I was like, oh, I'm doing this competition in 2 weeks' time. Like the live stream's here. Like, please watch it. I feel like they'd be more willing to watch it then because it's sort of like supporting your friend. I think for me when I first saw CrossFit and I wasn't quite into it. It took me actually going and doing it and then appreciating how hard it actually is and then watching it live. Like I was a lot more interested then. So I think it just depends on the person. Like some of my friends will probably be like, oh yeah, and then end up trying it and liking it, but then other ones might be like, yeah, that's not for me, that looks painful.
Yeah.
So bit of a mixture really. Yeah,
I don't know. It always fascinates me because I've had a friend just like visit me during the games, and so I was just having to apologize. I'd be like, look, I'm so sorry that you've traveled from Ireland to the UK to visit me. We are going to be watching the games while you're here, just so you know that's happening. But they enjoyed it, like, and then they sent me a pic because they'd seen something on, like, when they were back in Ireland, they'd seen some stuff on, and they were like, oh look, there's this, So I get sent CrossFit stuff from other people just because they know I watch it. But it is that weird thing where, like, other sports are massive because people watch the sport with no intention of playing it themselves or doing it themselves. It is just a spectator sport. And CrossFit's got that fun thing where pretty much everyone that watches it also does it. But you've also got a lot of people that do it but don't watch the sport. So I wonder if maybe maybe first get everyone doing it to watch it, and then maybe they'll get their friends and family to start watching it. Maybe that's the way. Maybe it's like everybody should just, have the Fittest on Earth saved on their phone so they can show it to people to sort of say, oh, this is CrossFit. You should watch this. There'll be a big competition at the end of the year. And just never mention quarterfinals to them. And that'll be absolutely fine. Because if you have to explain that, that's going to be tricky. How did you first start watching it, by the way, Barclay?
My neighbor, one of my childhood best friends, showed me the 2016 documentary when it was on Netflix. And I watched it, and it was in the back of my mind for 3 years. And then I missed qualifying for nationals for swimming, collegiate nationals for swimming by 2 places. And I coped with it by going to join a CrossFit gym the next day.
Wow. That is a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because you watched like them at the games and you were like, I know I'm a better swimmer than all of these people?
Oh, I think that most times that I see them swim, and I'm not even that good of a swimmer. I was D3, Division 3. So Division 1 is what you think of when you think of U.S. collegiate sports, and then Division 2 and Division 3, and I was Division 3. But I made it to nationals, so I know what I'm talking about when I talk about swimming.
Yeah.
I can spot bad form. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you can spot bad form. You just look at the games. Did you you did the track event. You didn't swim at Sid Origins, did you?
So I did the track one this time. The year before I did the swim. I don't mind swimming. I can swim for survival. I wouldn't say I'm great at it. I got a big reality check when I went to Tenerife for a weightlifting 101 camp. We did a swim workout, and everyone was just so like cruising with it, and I was like, oh my god, this is awful. Around like games athletes and semi-finalists, like Jen was triathlete, so swimming for her, she's a fish. And I was just there like, I just hope I make it to the other end so I can get on the rower.
Yeah, ironic that I want to get out of the water so I can get on a rower.
Yeah.
It's funny because the reason I always think about like Sid Origins, apart from the fact that it's just 5 minutes from here, it's just because of the size of the team and the fact that half of them have to go and swim. Like a lot of the teams will have some really good swimmers and then some just not good swimmers. And then because it's at the university, they have the lifeguards that are the lifeguards from the university that are usually watching swimming competitions and people that are swimming. And so I always make sure to speak to them just to see kind of what's your thoughts, what's your opinion on this, and I get interesting answers. So it's always fun. But yes, I guess like the top level CrossFitters now, they make sure swimming is a big part of what they're doing because they know probably at the games, but not always, they're gonna swim. But most that are doing CrossFit are probably still not too worried about swimming.
I feel like because I've got enough to kind of be getting better at with regards to like the barbell. Hopefully, if I get to a level then where it's like that's less of an issue, I'm confident in everything else, then I'll probably put more of an emphasis on the swimming. But I mean, I'm not terrible. I'm all right at it, but yeah, I feel like it's that kind of thing where you're not going to need to swim at quarterfinals. Like, I doubt swimming is going to come into semi-finals. You never know, but at the moment, I mean, it would be hard for them. They'd have to find every region with to get a pool with access and stuff. But yeah.
I don't know. Maybe GoRuck have built a pool that's in a bag or something, and they pull it out. And you never know. Don't put it past these people. Okay, first of all, Lito is correct. It was half the people swimming, half the people doing the max lift this year. That is true because that was that made it a very difficult decision. I remember now a lot of people were like, "Oh, this person's our best, best lifter, but they're also our best swimmer. What are we going to do with them?" So that was fun. And there was something else you said. Oh, are you planning to go to UK Champs?
This year, probably not. I think I've already missed the qualifiers. Right. I had a really good time last year. I just think because my focus last year for me, that was more just get on the floor, get a bit of competition experience. Like, didn't really peak for it or anything. Just sort of went in off of my strength cycle and just hope for the best. I would definitely do it again. I did really enjoy it, but I just think because obviously my focus has been more semis and then maybe some off-season comps later on in the year. I just haven't really thought about that as much.
Yeah. Okay. Because, there's always the potential with those guys that they're going to throw a swimming pool at you or a lake or some form of swimming. So.
Oh, I hated that. I jumped in and I was like, got cold water shock. I'm going to have to breaststroke. Can't breathe.
Yeah.
Just put up on the dumbbell.
Well, that's the other problem, isn't it? Is that we live in a cold country that even when the weather is nice, it's still pretty cold. And
yeah, everyone's got these like ice baths at the minute, and I just look at the stories and I think, no, I'll have a nice warm bath, thanks.
Yeah, I don't think recovery is worth it.
No.
It's not worth getting cold. Here we are. It's in the rule book. They will. So get ready to swim. Get ready to swim, everybody. Okay, Barclay, where are you heading to? How much longer have you got in the UK?
I'm here till I fly out on Sunday, so I've got all week.
Yeah, is that back home or you're traveling somewhere else? Yeah,
back home. Back home.
You're not one of those Americans that likes to come in and decide to visit the entirety of Europe during their brief stay, spending a couple of hours in each country.
Oh, no. I mean, my sister's here. I'm staying at my sister's house. She's lived in London for 10 years. So this is my 4th time here. So it's not old news to me. I'm still seeing new stuff, but I'm taking my time. But I'm here with my girlfriend, and it's her first time in London. So we're doing everything, all the touristy stuff for her first time.
Nice. Anything you would suggest he does while he's in the UK, Ella?
I'm not. If you're in London, God, I'm clueless. Go to Harry Potter Studios if you like Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's Friday. We already have our tickets, actually.
Oh yeah, there you go, sorted.
There you go.
That's it. Ella's got no other recommendations for me.
Thorpe Park, go to Thorpe Park if you're in London if you like roller coasters.
Okay.
Good one.
I'll take that.
Oh, someone said to go and visit Ella, but you're quite far from
I'm in
London.
Wigan. I'm in Wigan up north.
That's not in the schedule. Sorry.
London Aquarium is pretty good.
I've never been there.
Or people just giving advice. My advice is always get out of London, go visit somewhere else. But I say that, so
I'll be doing that on Sunday. So
yeah, well, yeah, it'd be quite far out of London at that point.
Yeah.
Bath's not too far. If you want to come down to Bath, it's only like an hour and a half, maybe on the train. An hour, not even that. I don't know.
That's worth it.
Richmond Park's nice. If that's in London, it's just like a nice walk.
That's all we've done. We've just walked.
Been practicing your box step ups.
Yeah. All of the step ups.
Someone's saying to go see. Are you going to see a show?
Not at the moment. I went to a show last time. Can't tell you anything about it, but I can tell you that I went to a show last time.
Nice. Clearly made an impression.
2 years ago, I went and saw Cirque du Soleil in London. That was really good. Okay. The ideas are coming back to me now. I haven't been to London in so long.
Yeah. So, Barclay, if you can get a time machine and go back in time 2 years to when Cirque du Soleil
no, they probably still have shows on. I'm pretty sure they do.
Probably.
Whether it's ongoing now or in a few months, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm here for this week, so in a few months doesn't really help me, but I appreciate it.
A little bit limited.
Go find a swimming pool and do some laps and just relive your glory days of.
Gosh, maybe.
Well, thank you for or go on another podcast because that's the fun thing to do. That's what people do when they're on holiday.
I was invited on one actually. Peter invited me on around the whiteboard.
Around the whiteboard, yeah.
Thank you. Tomorrow. And I kindly rejected him. I said, I'm trying not to do CrossFit stuff this week. I kind of forgot that I agreed to this one and the implications for it being on holiday. But yes, he found 3 people. So I said, if you really need to scrape the bottom of the barrel for a future week, I am willing to do it. But I would like to kindly reject your offer for this one.
See, I would like to see you on Around the Whiteboard as somebody who's said, I need a lot of time to digest and think.
Yeah. Get ready for the answer to be, I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know for all of them.
Get ready for the answer to be, well, there's nothing we can do to change what CrossFit will decide to do. So it's irrelevant that we even speak about it.
Yep.
The whole premise of his show collapses in the first line.
I'll need a deck of a pack of Pokemon cards.
Oh, so you can open them, yeah.
So I can open them and not answer the question.
But if you do that, you'll then be invited back onto the main show and have to talk about yourself for an hour and a half. So
I know that's risky.
It is a risky move to make. Okay. Well, Barclay, all the best with the last couple of days of your trip here, and safe flight home, and I guess get ready to start, cracking out some stats about semifinals, I suppose.
I got ideas. I got stuff in the works.
I had no doubt. Ella, speedy recovery, and hopefully you're feeling better. You can put behind you all the stress, we hope. I mean, the leaderboard's been finalized, right? That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's safe. You're safe. Oh,
I'm safe.
I'm going to feel awful if you check your phone after this and anything has changed. I will. But no. So all the best in Lyon, in, your little team that's traveling out there. So you, Jen, the others that are going from GST. Have you got quite a big squad following you out? Apart from mum and dad, obviously. Mum will be checking the leaderboard.
So my sister rejected because it's the 21st. So she's not actually too happy that semi-finals has fallen on those dates. But I feel like because I've got a few friends from my gym that are doing French Throwdown, so they've got a team for the sort of separate competition. So I'm just going to be traveling with them. So yeah, I'll have their support as well, which is great.
Excellent. Nice. Well, I'd love to say I'll see you there. Unfortunately, we know that's not happening. So I'll see you next year, wherever that semi-final will be. Or, maybe, as I said, this is the catalyst. You'll get to the games, then maybe you'll be at Rogue. I'll see you at Rogue. This is the beginning of great things. And then you'll find your name all over Barclay's spreadsheets. It'll be like, oh, keep updating these things.
That would be really cool.
And then we'll clip back to when he said you could have the best climb ever from a semi-final because you've come in 40th. And imagine 40th and then winning the games and then winning Rogue. Oh, all in one season. Amazing. What a season we have coming up, everybody. I cannot wait to see this. Even if it's just a season in my head, but it sounds great. I'm really enjoying it. So thank you both for coming on the show today. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved in the comments. Some great questions, as always. Come back, please. Next week, it will be Tuesday once again. I'll be starting just half an hour later, so it will be 7 p.m. here in the UK, which is 1 p.m. Central Time, I believe. We'll have another wonderful athlete that is also heading to France for the semi-finals. That is Tom Kingdon. And the man behind producing some of the best looking shirts in the CrossFit ecosystem, Mr. Vindicate himself, Travis, will be joining us. So hopefully I will see everyone again on Tuesday.